There we go.
Welcome to the Play Pouch. This is our first live session. We're
Yep.
celebrating 50 episodes of our show. So, woohoo! Yeah, bring the cake out and the ice cream. I'll have mint, please. How you doing, Nick? You all right?
I'm all right, quite excited actually, because obviously we're changing things a little bit by going live, which is the first time. There's a chat. Don't think anyone's in here, but there is a chat. If anyone does turn up, so we can have a chat with them if they've got anything to ask us. So no,
Yeah.
this is a new ground for us. So we'll see how we get on. I'm quite excited about it. Quite pumped up.
Yes. We are going to get webcams, by the way, before we begin. We are very poor people, so if you feel like reaching out to us and donating, please, if there's any millionaires out there who fancy sort of, throwing us a few pennies, that would be much appreciated. Right. So today we are talking about Fallout 4 and how it can be improved.
Yeah.
Specifically, I don't know, gameplay loop, mechanics,
Story.
yeah, just things like that. So why don't you kick things off? Let's talk about the story. So let's sort of assume that we get to work on Fallout 5. And well, I don't know. Maybe it's just how do we make Fallout 4 better
Yeah, it's
in
just like
terms of
looking,
story?
looking at it, and obviously with the TV show, which has been pretty much a hit, so there'll be more seasons of that. So everybody's playing these Fallout games, obviously now. So going back to Fallout 4, it wasn't what the fans really wanted, especially at the time. And though I think it sold okay, it was generally regarded as quite maybe even the worst Fallout game if you take 3. And then the first 2, and then New Vegas, which was which was really good. It was that's probably regarded as the best one, believe it or not, the one that Bethesda didn't make, the one that Obsidian did. So Fallout 4 obviously came after New Vegas, and I think people were just a little bit disappointed, I think, with it. So what we're just trying to do is to look back and have a look at what kind of they did wrong, what they needed to do right, what could they do now if they can be bothered. And I say that because they did recently, as you know, Pete, release a next-gen patch which improved the game, how it ran and everything, but it didn't change any systems and stuff like that. So it's still the same game with the same issues. I think you've said, when we have discussed it in the past, you've said a lot that one of your pet peeves, and I agree with you. I don't think I care quite as much as you do, or it doesn't bother me quite as much. But you said that it takes all the survival elements out of the game because you're allowed to build more or less whatever you want very early in the game in the settlement system. So let's talk about the settlement system. You'd probably just remove it then, I'm assuming.
I wouldn't necessarily remove it. I would put it right at the end. I'd make it as a reward for clocking the game. I don't see why they put it at the beginning. Literally, when you come out of the vault, it's like, here's the mechanic, and it's like, well, no. Who decided to do that? That's it. Because you're right, it does completely destroy any sense of survival, struggling to survive. You're pilfering off everything. You're going into people's houses and taking what you can and stuff like that. It just takes everything away. The whole idea of a post-apocalyptic world is survival. And if we can build bases in that, we don't need any of that. We don't need to wander around. And that's the very sort of basis of the game is to sort of, you're a wanderer, right? We want to be a Mad Max type person, and we're not getting that if we can sort of construct things, make it a reward for completing the game. They really need to sort this out for the next one. It's like there's no progression feeling. You've just taken it all away. So yeah.
I think the idea was meant to be, and I use the term obviously meant to be because the execution of it maybe was the issue, but the idea was meant to be is that you're kind of meant to be rebuilding the whole area more than it, you know, they put you in a role with this whole system, the Minutemen, whatever they were called, systems, where you go around and there's quite a lot of them. There's lots of these. I'm trying to think of the right word. There's lots of these kind of small towns or very shanty town kind of places where you go in there, and then obviously you can build, and then you can recruit up to 10 people. I think so. The idea was meant to be that you're kind of recovering your world, I suppose, is what they were trying to go for, by having all these different kind of hostels, whatever, in all different parts of the map, and there was a lot of so I think that's the idea they were going for. So it was like, yeah, you're not really, it's not really about yourself so much. It's like, no, you're trying to bring the wasteland back to civilization, I suppose. My problem with it, I think, is that, and I've said this before when we've talked about it, is that it was a buggy mess. And the settlement part did kind of grab me a little bit, which I don't think it did you. So I was quite invested in the settlement part. I liked the general idea. I didn't mind it. Problem was, it was so glitchy, at least back then. I don't know what it's like nowadays, where it wasn't ready. And obviously, the buildings and stuff like that, you build defenses, you build stuff like that. That was quite an early iteration of it that obviously ended up most likely migrating off to Fallout 76 about building bases and stuff. So they added an early kind of way of building bases, and they tried to kind of, if I look at it from a gameplay mechanic, you didn't get very much for going through it because you had to spend a lot of resources to build all these things, right? Normally it'd be scrap you'd find. I did like the fact that it made stuff that you found in the world, it made everything kind of have a bit of value. So if you found all this rubbish laying around, and it mostly is rubbish, you could actually pick it up, take it back to base, and actually have a use for it. And I like that aspect of it, that kind of scavenger aspect of it. But gameplay is that you didn't get anything really for it. Like you could kind of role play it, which I guess is okay. Where it's like, yeah, I'm making all these towns, I'm giving all these towns guns, and then you get these super mutant raids. Did you ever see any of these things? The super mutant raids that you get these places. And so that's what the guns were for. It was to help protect against super mutants. But gameplay-wise, you didn't get really anything for it. You didn't get any kind of real permanent buffs. You could get a couple of things like supply chains and stuff like that, but they could have done a lot more, I think, by rewarding the player for the time investment of going to all this hassle to collecting all these materials and then building the bases and all the guns and stuff. I don't think you got enough back for what they wanted you to do, personally. That's what I look at it as.
I just think it was too much too soon. Just have it at the end of the game or towards the end and make it part of the story, and just give us something else to do once we've gone through the storyline and once we've wandered around and explored everywhere and stuff like that. By putting that whole mechanic right at the start, you just completely destroyed all of it. You invalidated it completely. And it spoiled it big time. So that's why I prefer Fallout 3 to Fallout 4.
Yeah, it's a different. I'll definitely agree with you that it's a different atmosphere because of the fact that there is these friendly hubs, kind of all dotted around. And whereas in Fallout 3, you really were pretty much by yourself the whole time, other than Megaton, the first town, and stuff like that. Other than that place, it's like where you had a house. It's just like. So no, I understand where you come from. I don't mind it, but I just wish it was executed better. And the bugs, don't. The bugs, I told you, that drove me off the game, and I've yet to go back. Really, all those years ago. So,
so I mean, other aspects about the mechanics is I guess it's kind of part of the mechanics, I suppose. Is that there's too much familiarity as we wander across the landscape. So if I'm traveling down to like the southwest side and then exploring places, and I go up to the northeast side, there's too much similar sort of assets, and I want some. And this is a problem with games generally, in that you have all this sort of like cookie cutter sort of sets and stuff, which is just like it's too familiar. Don't feel like I've gone anywhere. and I want different, looking computers or different assets and something new to sort of look at and explore, different items to pick up, like more than what they've got. You it isn't long before you see that sort of wide as an ocean, shallow as a puddle aspect of Bethesda games.
Starfield.
Yeah. I want different sort of weapons and armor to be unique to certain regions, not just sort of like all across the board. And this is this is a problem with procedural content generation, basically. And I don't want that. I mean, like, have procedural content restricted to regions if you're going to do it.
How much do you think? How much did they use in Fallout 4? Do you think procedurally generated stuff, Bethesda?
I reckon there's probably quite. I don't think there's much. I think the only thing that they sort of had procedurally wise was the object placement of items rather than sort of buildings and stuff like that. Yeah. I think the buildings are unique, but they're just using the same asset pieces. They're using the same Lego pieces, right? Which is fine, but have different Lego sets for each region. You have to give us that sort of feeling that we're in a different area, and not go into the same looking building or picking up, fighting a similar enemy or things like that. Different looking robots. The factions that they brought in were cool. The Brotherhood of Steel. And,
there's quite a few of them, wasn't there?
Who was that other lot? The underground lot.
Network.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, our fans. I say fans. Our fans know what we mean. So there's that, which was kind of irritating because it does get very samey very quickly, and you just you just don't want any of that. So I certainly don't.
I'd like to bring up a gameplay mechanic which, I mean, this applies to all Bethesda games, but I feel like it might have even gotten worse. In Starfield, it was completely trash, and that's the stealth system. So, in Fallout games, I kind of like being... in most of my games, I don't actually like being this big bruiser who runs up there. I actually prefer to be more sneaky, stuff like that. It's just in my games in general. So I've always tried to get these kind of stealth builds. And in the stealth in the Bethesda games, and it's always been bad. I'm not saying this is Fallout 4 just, but it's always been really bad. And I've wanted for so many years to just change their stealth system. It's balked, mate. It's absolutely balked their stealth system.
How is it fucked?
Okay, so even if you kill somebody, right, and they're completely by themselves, and you use, a stealth gun, makes no noise, everybody knows you're there. Everybody goes on this cautious meter, I suppose, is the way it is. And not only do they go to this cautious meter that somehow, that apparently all of them know, right? All of them just know. They always kind of know where you are as well. It's weak stealth elements. I'd rather them just not have stealth in the game. Like, if you can't do it, right, and Bethesda have never been able to do it, don't have it in the game. Just don't have that in the game. And it is a play style. Is it overpowered? No, not really. It's not overpowered. They obviously think by having everybody kind of know where you are, that's their idea of making it balanced, so that the game doesn't want you to be able to run in there in stealth. It doesn't want you to. It wants you to maybe be able to have an initial attack in stealth, but then the rest of the dungeon you can't do it. Now, in saying that, you can do it, but it takes an awful long time. Like, you can kill one person in stealth, and then everybody's looking out for you. Everybody knows you're there, even if there's nobody who's seen you make the kill, or even if there's nobody who's even close by, they just somehow know, and everybody knows. And they kind of know where you are in that kind of way where they know whereabouts you kind of are. Maybe not your exact location, but your whereabouts, where they just all know. And it ruins the stealth mechanics for me. And it's my own fault to a certain degree, because I should know by now that you can't play stealth in Bethesda games because it's broken. And it was broken in Starfield. It's the same thing in Starfield. It's actually worse in Starfield. It's actually gotten worse.
Yeah, it is.
So
It's a difficult thing to get right, stealth, because it's like, well, how easy do you make it? Because if you just make it as it would be in real life, then it's kind of easy, you know, because like,
it is, but you've got to invest. But you have to invest in it. I mean, I'd be okay with it that if I invested all my points in a stealth character, then I should be affected in stealth. If I've just put 1 point into it or something, that's fine. I don't expect to be able to, but I'm sacrificing power in other ways so that I can be the stealth character. So I am sacrificing my power, other skills that I could take, to make that build viable. And I'm not saying I should be invisible or anything silly like that. No, I just want a bit more realism. Like if I'm shooting somebody and there's nobody next to him, ain't no way nobody saw that death, and then ain't no way that everybody in the whole dungeon knows where I am. It's ridiculous, mate.
no, yeah, I agree. Like sort of sound distance just sort of seems to carry across the entire map, and that shouldn't be the case. So they need to refine on stealth.
Yeah.
How do you feel about combat in general, though? Because I feel like it's okay, and it's been a major staple of like the Fallout franchise and the Elder Scrolls franchise, etc. So I don't have a problem with it. I think it's quite fun. Do you think it's okay, or do you think there needs to be more weapons, or how do you feel?
Okay, so in the Fallout games, obviously 3 and 4, and obviously New Vegas, the VAT system I thought was awesome. I really loved that because again, you could make a build which is all about VATs, so that when your VATs were active, you had a massive advantage. But your VATs, obviously, you can't continuously play in VATs, so you have to wait for it to recharge.
Yeah.
So it's like you had to kind of pick and move, and then wait for your VATs to come back. And it was a play style that I really enjoyed. I thought the actual overall gunplay was okay, average at best. But using Starfield again, that is a game that has no VATs, and the gameplay in Starfield is shit. And I was praying there was VATs in that game, and there's no such thing other than a little bit in the ship combat, right? Where you get something a bit similar a little bit. So I think I like the gameplay in Fallout 4, but because of VATs. And I always played with VATs in mind, right? So if you take VATs out and it's just a normal shooter, I think the gameplay's average for a shooter. I didn't think anything special.
Yeah.
But I loved VATs. I loved VATs, and I don't care if people would have said, for Starfield, they've just taken the VAT system. That's fine. Call it something different, but you can have the same system. This is meant to be in space, isn't it? Isn't this meant to be in the future? We've traveled to different. You can't have a kind of robot targeting system or something that you can use the same way you kind of do with VATs. Just a little bit of creativity, mate. That's all it is.
Yeah. They're sort of staying too safe, I feel, with the combat, aren't they? They're not sort of thinking outside the box. They're not trying to sort of improve things as such. They're just sort of, right, well, this works, let's just fucking move on. I think there's a lot of sort of creative bankruptcy with Bethesda games in general, and I'm worried for the next title releases. So.
Yeah. So I think you should be worried, mate. Sorry.
Yeah. I
think
a lot of people are.
In Starfield, I know it's not a Starfield we're talking about, but in Starfield, I think that they tried to have the jetpack be, we're going to add the jetpack and people are going to jump around and use the jetpack. I mean, firstly, that doesn't help you that much indoors, really. It doesn't help you that much indoors. And you can use it a little bit, but it's not. If that was their kind of replacement for VATs to make combat interesting, to give you a jetpack, then, I mean, not for me, bruv. But
I kind of think that the internet ruins games like this because, like, if you want to know where a certain item is, you just look it up. And I just wish that didn't exist. I want to be able to sort of explore the game on my own, but because of the way my mind works, it's like, oh, fuck it, I want to cut corners and just...
I mean, they could... I mean, there's no reason why they can't do, like, random loot drops. Like, in shit. I mean, and sometimes they do. I don't know exactly in Fallout 4 if there was... I think in Fallout 4, at least with the bobbleheads, do you remember the bobbleheads?
Yeah.
They were always in the same place. So... And they were quite powerful because obviously they gave you permanent stat boosts, right? So they were very powerful to collect.
Randomize them, right? Randomize their placement,
That's what I mean. So you could randomize them. at the very least, randomize what you get. So even if you know, oh, there's going to be a bobblehead there, at least randomize one you get. So maybe you don't know which one you're going to get from that location. You know, this is all stuff that it's not. It's all stuff they could have done. It's not stuff that is like out of the realms of possibility, dude. It's just a bit. I just think Bethesda are just a bit lazy, mate. I think they are. I'm sorry. I just think.
So let's sort of talk about the main storyline. I mean,
okay, so I didn't finish it, Pete. I got to say, so I didn't finish it, so I don't know about the ending.
Yeah.
It didn't grasp me at all because you might want to play your Angry Joe thing because I was too busy cultivating crops. I was too busy cultivating crops and trying to help the poor people of the wasteland. Rebuilding. Like I say, I got sucked into that stuff. I did. So I didn't care that my kid was taken. I just stopped caring. I forgot. Whatever.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's the biggest problem with the main storyline. It's like it's a good story, but what they fail to recognize is that it's not the kind of story that we can just sort of drop and sort of leave for a while and then come back to. It's like there's this sense of urgency to it, and you feel bad, like, you know, Angry Joe does with his review video. Yeah, it is, and you know, to discover that your son is, spoilers, is grown and he's sort of older than you technically now. It's kind of like a bit of a shock as well. I kind of liked that, and but I just, you know, it was okay, but they just didn't think about how it sort of sat in the universe with all the other side quests and other people and factions and stuff. It needed to be more of a sort of, okay, I can leave that for now, and, you know, I've done a chunk of it and I don't feel bad about it, and, you know, that's if you are interested in the story. You might not be.
It didn't put any urgency on it. It kind of more or less said, yeah, okay, so here's the world, do what you want, really. It didn't, and I can see why some people want that. They want the freedom. I get that as well, but there could have been a bit more urgency, because obviously you've got all the different faction quests. You've got the Brotherhood of Steel faction quest. You've got 3 or 4 different faction quests. So they're giving you an awful lot and giving you a lot of freedom, and generally that's a good thing. But sometimes you do kind of need a little bit of, let's move the story on a little bit of urgency, maybe, stuff like that. So yeah, you have to get the balance right. Did they get the balance right? I don't think they did.
No, I don't think they did either. I think this sort of segues nicely into characters. So, what did you think about the characters in general? Is there characters that you liked? I mean, I can't remember a lot of them, but
I did like the fact they had quite a lot of companions. I suppose they're called. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. I mean, you meet the first guy, Garrett, I think his name is, and he's the one you try to get you involved in all these kind of Minuteman quests, and you meet him right away, and obviously the main quest takes you there, so there's no like, oh, I'll meet him later on. No, you meet him right away. The game wants you to meet him right away.
Yeah.
And yeah, he as you said earlier, he thrusts the whole settlement stuff upon you. Now, he doesn't force you to do it, but he thrusts it on you right away.
Yeah.
And then I think the second character I remember meeting is when you head to she's a reporter. I think she's meant to be one of the love interests. Piper, I think her name is. She's like a reporter, and I think you meet her.
Oh, yeah, you meet her at the gates of...
Yeah. She was okay. She was all right. I mean, she was okay. And then the private investigator was quite an interesting character because he's a robot, and he's playing like his PI, almost from like the film noir films. Can't remember his name, but I felt that he was interesting because obviously... He had a weird backstory as well, so I quite liked him as well. And then some of the other ones were a bit less so. Like you had like a kind of a bandit who was kind of like an ex-bandit. He was just like kind of a merc now and stuff like that. So some of them I can't remember, so that tells you that they didn't leave a massive imprint on me. But I remember Piper, and I remember the PI guy.
Who's the super? Oh, the PI guy was great.
Yeah, he was a robot, and he was like a private investigator.
Yeah.
And he had a backstory to do with the faction. I forget the name of them, dude. The Commonwealth. That's right, the Commonwealth faction. So, and obviously, because the synth stuff was in some of the earlier games, so he was obviously a synth. So, I thought he was decent. I'm trying to remember if I actually finished his side quest. I don't think I did, but I think I was actually in the middle of it when I just stopped playing because of the bugs. But I think the characters were okay. But I don't think the characters in Fallout 3 were that amazing. I thought that Liam Neeson did a good job as your dad. I mean, it's Liam Neeson. You would expect him to do a good job. I mean, so he did a good job with your dad. But there wasn't that many memorable characters in Fallout 3 either. And maybe that's where a lot of the hardcore fans who say that Fallout 1 and 2 were, the best of the series, maybe that's where they're coming from. It's like the characters were better in that. And maybe that is part of Fallout 3 and 4. Maybe the characters were worse. Or maybe that's a fair comment.
Do you think it was diverse enough?
Was it diverse enough?
No, it wasn't, clearly.
Was wokeness for androids? The androids have got to be heard.
Yeah, we didn't get a transvestite android, did we? To be fair. So yeah,
No.
Shame on you, Bethesda, for not including.
Yeah, you remember you had the dog character. They always put in dog meat, isn't it? So you had the dog character, which is pretty cool. Because if you didn't want to hang around with people and you want to be antisocial, which I can relate to, then you can just say, I'd go with my doggy.
Yeah.
My dog.
That part of it was cool. What do I feel? I didn't mind any of them apart from Garrett. I just thought he was really fucking irritating. Always sort of saying, "Oh, there's a settlement that needs saving." And I was just like, "Oh, whatever." And I just didn't pay attention to any of that shit. But no, there wasn't anyone that sort of annoyed me specifically, apart from the reporter. Maybe that was just a bit irritating. But no, it's fine. I don't really have a big issue with the characters. Lastly. The music. How did you feel the music sat with the atmosphere? Did you think it was good, or did you think that it was kind of needed to change, needed to be different?
Speaking on the atmosphere, overall, not just the score, but I thought that Fallout 3 and the Capital Wasteland was a better environment than in Fallout 4 and the Commonwealth. I don't know why.
No, I agree with you, yeah.
I think a little bit has got to do with what you said at the start regarding you just felt you felt more alone, you felt more isolated.
This is how I feel that the Fallout land. Yeah, but this is how I feel that the Fallout landscape was. Just completely boring as fuck. So I agree with you. The Fallout 3 was a lot better in terms of its layout and stuff. We had that big Megaton, was it? That city that was close to
the city that's built around a bomb, and that's like your main hub unless you destroy it. And if you destroy it, you can go to the bad guy hub, which is like a hotel.
Yeah.
So there was only really one main hub for you, and they gave you obviously a house and stuff like that, and you could have like a servant or the robot, I think, was there, that you customize your house, which is pretty cool. But that stuff also was lesser in Fallout 4 because, as you said before, because of all the hostels and everything that you could build up. So it's just like I didn't really have a home. It was like, oh no, I'm mayor of all these places now, and all. So it's like I don't really have a port of call I call home anymore. It's like no, not in Fallout 4.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the enemy designs were all quite similar. It's very similar enemies in both games as well. I don't think there was anything special about any of the enemies in Fallout 4, really.
Well, this is what I was saying before. Everything has to be regional. Everything has to be different with each region. Yeah, if everything's going to be the same as we go across the map, then it's just I haven't felt like I've gone anywhere.
No, it's the enemies design probably were a bit too similar. Again, I think this is a place where New Vegas, the Obsidian game, did a good job because they introduced some interesting factions, such as like the Roman Empire. I forget the name, but they were inspired by the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And so when you see these guys running around and they're fighting the Brotherhood of Steel, it's just like. And I remember going to the base and I was just like, yeah, this actually feels really good. It felt different, and that's why I think Obsidian actually nailed it, and that's why I think that it's regarded as probably the best of the 3D games. I still prefer Fallout 3 because of where I was when I played it. and the sense of freedom I felt that I can't really replicate. You know, you only get that feeling probably once in your life. You know, it was the first time I played that kind of 3D open world game. So,
But yeah, so in terms of like the music and the score, the incidental stuff, combat music, it was good. You know, I wouldn't say I would want to change anything. Maybe have it a bit more sort of scarier. I think it was a bit too sort of run of the mill, friendly, kind of almost. Maybe it should have been a bit more ominous in places, especially when we're out in the middle of nowhere, the fields and stuff.
I just think that Fallout 3 it just had a better setting. It just did.
Yeah.
Do you remember Fallout 3 obviously is much more of a desert area as well. There's not very much greenery, if any. And then you go to the capital part, and it's where all the super mutants all hang out. So you knew that if you were going there, you were going to be fine. I just thought it was a better setting. I think Fallout 4 dropped the ball a little bit on that side of it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, you can't really go back and improve. That was a setting they chose, and that's it. But looking at what they could do if they really wanted to, they're probably not, because it's an old game. You got a patch, and that's all you're probably going to get.
No, that's all we're getting, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, the gameplay could certainly be improved. The story could certainly be improved. The map could be improved, I suppose. They could have come up with more unique enemies as well, like you say, for the region, because it shouldn't be all the same stuff. There should be different creatures, shouldn't there, around? Different creatures are being mutated and stuff, rather than just rad scorpions and...
I mean, it was a little bit repetitive. It was very much...
Sample obtained! Obtained! Sample obtained! Sample obtained! Sample obtained! Sample obtained!
It was literally just, very repetitive. I'm trying to find excuses to show off our video clips. Yeah,
we've got some new toys, folks, so we can't help ourselves.
So yeah, in conclusion, I think that there's a lot of little tweaks that we would put in, some progression feeling factors that could be changed. There's a lot there, specifically the whole construction system put to the end as a reward for going through the main quest line. The music I feel like just sort of needs to be more ominous. I mean, it's fine, but I felt like I needed to be scared a bit more. The survivability factor, gameplay loop just really wasn't there like it was in Fallout 3. And so they really need to sort of think about that. The layout of certain things was okay as well. I felt like the lighting was too sort of friendly. It sort of lit up a lot of things. I do feel like...
I think it's too bright, you think?
Yeah, I kind of feel like maybe we should have had our torch on a lot more in certain, interiors and things like that. But because there's no power, is there? So how is everything being lit up? Yeah. In conclusion, it's I don't really like this game, to be quite honest. But Fallout 3 was a lot better.
It certainly is the worst of the three 3D ones, for sure. I'm not counting Fallout 76 because it's a Fallout game, but it's an MMO, it's not a single player game, right? So it's fine. It's not the same thing. Fallout 76 is worse because there's no VATS in that. So that was the first time looking at. Sorry, no, there is VATS in that, but the way. Sorry, my bad. There is actually VATS in that, but the way it works, it's horrible in 76. There's no kind of freezing of slowing down time and stuff like that. So they've completely butchered that because they had to, because it's an MMO. It's not, or a live service. It's not a single player.
Yeah.
You can play a single player, but so VATS isn't like that. So you got your first hand in 76 of what the actual combat without VATS would be like in these games, and then they moved on to Starfield, and we've all seen it. In closing myself, I think Fallout 5's got quite a big job. I think its reputation has been damaged with Fallout 76 and some of the piss takes they took with the lore. Just because the show has got off to a good start, so the brand overall, maybe the brand is more popular now for the casual fan. That's great, but they still need to do a lot of repair for the more hardcore veteran Fallout fans for Fallout 5 because they've screwed up the lore. So I don't know. I don't even know what they're going to do. They'll just make their own lore, I guess. They don't even care, I suppose. At this point, they won't care about the first 2 games because it wasn't under them, was it? So
Yeah.
they won't care.
I think the Fallout 76 was a major abomination, and it was just the corporate commanders at the top that were pushing this shit, and they need to go back to its roots and change their engine, for fuck's sake.
Oh, God, yes.
It's like,
I mean that's the number one thing they've got to do, dude. Before they do everything else, then they can start fixing the stealth as well. That'd be my number 2 thing. Fix your engine, and then fix your stealth so it actually works properly, please. That's what I want first and second.
Yeah. All right, everyone. That's going to do it for this episode. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, leave them in the section below or in live, and we will respond at some point soon. And this was our 50th show, and we're celebrating. Probably have a
First
beer.
time trying this format as well, Pete. So
yeah, it's the first time we're trying out this live.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
So if you've done anything wrong, let us know. So this is the first time we're using this album.
Yeah. Oh yes. Also, I must reiterate as well that we are looking into getting webcams. So we need to sort of save up our penny jar for that. So
50p's.
50p's. Yeah. Okay, everyone. We'll chat to you later.
Take care.